So that's it, we were saved by aliens?
I quit trying to make sense of it all back on the Ishimura.
Come on, this can't be real! Wait, what are we supposed to do now?
Well, duh. Play more Dead Space 3. If you never finished Dead Space 3, consider yourself warned. Spoilers ahead. If you did beat the original game and you watch the credits roll to the end, you know that Isaac is alive. Dead Space 3 Awakened is new DLC that picks up the story from there in a 3-chapter epilogue that amounts to a few hours of new content. We catch up with Isaac and Carver as they try and figure out how they live through the finale, which is totally understandable because it's sort of crazy.
Isaac, you activated the codex, the moon fell, we fell!
How did they survive free-falling from the eye of a giant end-of-the-galaxy tornado vortex started by a moon-sized necromorph collapsing into the planet? I don't know, but if you can get past that, Awakened offers some really good fun, and some of the most memorable moments in Dead Space 3, but it raises bigger questions about the full game along the way.
Hold on here. Terranova? Why? I'm reading one of Unitologist's transponders. It's coming from the cradle.
If you played any of the side missions in Dead Space 3, you'll be familiar with the experience Awakened delivers. It's spread across 3 separate beats, following Isaac and Carver as they attempt to escape from Tau Volantis and get back to Earth in one piece. You'll backtrack through a bunch of sections from the original game and encounter an extremist group of Unitologists. These nut jobs cut off their hands and carve themselves up in an effort to make themselves resemble the necromorphs. This is easily the most provocative and interesting bit of narrative in all of Dead Space 3, and represents some truly creative, albeit twisted thinking. As cool as it is to see the more bizarre side of Dead Space 3, it is a little far-fetched that these crazy guys have totally redecorated the Terra Nova in such a relatively short time. Turns out someone on the ship packed a ton of candles and paint. And how did they set everything up with no hands? The best part of the story is that Isaac begins suffering full-blown dementia again, which didn't happen in any meaningful way in the full game. These hallucinations take things in a decidedly dark and refreshing direction. The voice work is particularly disturbing, there are plenty of jump scares, and as a whole, Awakened works well to set a menacing mood that is true to the spirit of what Dead Space has always been. What I want to know is why wasn't anything like this in the main story?
That doesn't make any sense!
The combat, collection, and core mechanics all return in Awakened, with literally no changes. There are also no new rigs, which is a disappointment. For collectors of stuff, I would have hoped at least for a new armor set, but no such luck. But hey, if you want to buy a few, there are plenty on sale for real cash. Oh, EA. There is a set of +3 chips and overclocked Mark II parts to collect that you could only get by playing through the campaign again in more difficult modes, so that's something. There are a few new enemies, from the mad cultists who hate their hands, to a variation on the charging stalkers, and a few others. Everything else is pretty much identical to Dead Space 3, outside of the candles and stuff. All the puzzle solving is the same, and the environments are almost all spots we visited before. There is a new reactor core puzzle that requires some time, evasion, and stasis juggling, but it's pretty brief.
Danik had a strong contingent down here hunting us. One of their ships has to be around here.
You should absolutely play Awakened if you've already beaten Dead Space 3. It's one of the more original and memorable parts of Isaac's story, which says as much about Dead Space 3 as a game as it does the quality of this DLC. The creepy atmosphere, the dementia, and the bite-sized story of devotion gone wrong stands out strongly against some of the more phoned-in narrative beats of the original game. Awakened shows creativity and offers a great, but brief, return to the Dead Space universe. For more on Dead Space 3, keep it locked on IGN.